The story of Cain and his wife is truly intriguing, especially for those who noticed in Genesis that Cain's dynasty continues. The story raises a question that has sparked the curiosity of many. Where did Cain get his wife? To unravel this mystery, we must delve into the depths of the biblical verses. These verses inform us that after Cain killed his brother Abel, he was banished by God and wandered to the land of Nod, which is east of Eden. But here a crucial moment arises when the text states that Cain united with his wife, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Enoch, Genesis 4:17. Since women were not mentioned before Eve, the question arises, how could Cain leave the area of Eden and wander to find a wife? For this enigma, two possible explanations for the origin of the woman with whom Cain married are presented. As a result of his father's sin in paradise, the earth was cursed. Now the Son himself is cursed through the earth. Thus began humanity's journey in the world, surrendering to passions and curses. This is the explanation for the hard work and difficulties of the human race outside paradise. Furthermore, the earth was cursed. When you work the ground, it will no longer yield its crops for you. You will be a restless wanderer on the earth. Genesis 4:12. The curse of Cain, the farmer of the land, is not only more severe than that of the earth, but also originates from it. It is the same ground where he hid his crime, the same ground that will now deliver his punishment. It will withhold its power precisely from those who depended on it. Cain goes into exile just as his father was exiled from paradise. From now on, he will not only lack a permanent place to live, but also peace, as evidenced by his fears. Today, you are driving me from the land, and I will be hidden from your presence. I will be a restless wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me. Genesis 4:14. Cain refutes his claims, but God grants him special protection as a sign to prevent him from being harmed. Cain's protection goes beyond the sign that distinguishes him from the rest of the world. It also includes the promise of avenging his death, should the sign alone not be enough. After leaving God's presence, he ironically settles in the land of Nod. There, he experiences the joys and challenges of family life, continuing the chain of generations. Just like his father, where did he find a woman in a world devoid of humans? The Bible does not explicitly answer the question of whom Cain married. However, it is believed that Cain married one of his sisters or a close relative, as all people on earth at that time were direct descendants of Adam and Eve. Where then did Cain find his wife? Two options are available for this. The first suggests that God created additional groups of people and dispersed them across different parts of the world. This suggests that the woman Cain married could be part of one of these distinct groups. However, upon examining the Genesis story, this idea seems impossible. In Genesis chapter 3, Adam refers to his wife Eve and declares that Adam named his wife Eve because she would become the mother of all the living. Genesis 3:20. The phrase "mother of all the living" refers only to human beings. This emphasizes that Adam and Eve were the original human couple from whom all subsequent human beings came. Thus, the idea of Cain finding a separate group of people created by God contradicts Scripture. An alternative explanation suggests that Cain may have married his sister, niece, or granddaughter. Two facts help us understand who she was. 1. The Bible does not mention the names of all Adam's descendants. 2. Cain's marriage age was not provided. At the time Cain married a woman, as we already mentioned, there were no other people in the world except for Adam, Eve, Cain, and Abel. However, tragically, Abel was murdered. Based on the description of the events between Cain and Abel, it seems that both were farmers at the time. It is also apparent that they were already adults and had their own families. It is possible that Adam and Eve had other children besides Cain and Abel, especially considering that Abel was murdered. After Adam and Eve, their descendants multiplied, including their grandchildren and great-grandchildren. It was one of Adam and Eve's daughters or granddaughters who married Cain. After Cain was cursed and exiled, he traveled east of Eden, where he met and united with his wife, who accompanied him. Cain united with his wife, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Enoch, Genesis 4:17. Despite being cursed by God and marked to avoid harm, Cain found a woman who agreed to be his wife. She could have been one of his sisters, or she could have been the daughter of Abel or Seth, his niece. She could also have been from 1 or 2 generations later. The ambiguity of Genesis reminds us to speculate about the relationship between Cain and his wife. However, it is worth noting that Cain's wife was a descendant of Adam. Since Cain's age is not provided, we cannot determine the exact timing of his marriage. Many years could have passed, increasing the possibility that his wife was a more distant relative. According to the Book of Jubilees, Cain's wife is Awan, who is said to be Eve's daughter. The Book of Jubilees, written between 135 and 105 BC, is a Jewish commentary that is not included in the Bible. According to the Book of Jubilees, it is written that Eve gave birth to Cain in the 3rd week of the Jubilee. On the 4th day, she gave birth to Abel. On the 5th day, she gave birth to her daughter Awan. After Cain killed Abel because God chose Abel's offering and not his, Adam and Eve mourned Abel's death. Then it is said that Adam united with his wife again, and she gave birth to a son and named him Seth, saying, "God has granted me another child in place of Abel, since Cain killed him." Genesis 4:25. And then they gave birth to their daughter Azurah. Cain, on the other hand, took his sister as his wife, and she bore him a son named Enoch. Driven by his ambition, Cain built a city, naming it after his son Enoch. Since Adam and Eve were the first and only humans on earth, their children had no choice but to marry each other. In the early days, marriage within the family was not initially forbidden by God. It was only later, when the population grew and the need for such marriages diminished, that this restriction was established. The same problem occurred after the flood. All human beings are descendants of Ham, Shem, and Japheth, the sons of Noah, along with their wives. After the flood, God ordered them to multiply. Later, after the Israelites left Egypt, God gave laws prohibiting incest. In conclusion, the question of where Cain got his wife presents an intriguing enigma. A careful examination of the biblical text reveals that Cain apparently married his sister, who was born to Adam and Eve when they traveled to the land of Nod. The absence of a prohibition on such unions at that time, along with the genetic conditions of the era, lends great credibility to this explanation. These stories, though sometimes distant or enigmatic, continue to offer valuable lessons about forgiveness, responsibility, and the importance of seeking divine wisdom and guidance in our lives. May we learn from the past, live purposefully in the present, and look with hope to the future, always trusting in God's promise of love, redemption, and renewal for all His children.